Right, that's fine. So I'm now recording.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Between two Germans.
Well, hello, or should I say, dear drinker, I say. It's such an honor to have you in our podcast. I'm such a big fan. Hazel can...
Yeah, I can confirm that my husband and co-host, he loves you. And I have learned to love you as well in my
I think she learned to respect you. She always listens to your voice when she's like brushing her teeth and I'm in bed already and watching your videos to wind down after a long day of German work.
It's nice that I can help people to fall asleep. So
I don't actually know what exactly is your appeal, but you somehow just hit the right nail in my head all the time, and I think probably a lot of men tell you this, but it's just after every sentence you say, I'm just thinking, "Amen, brother, amen, amen, amen." It's so nice.
I mean, it's great fun from my point of view because, if there's things that are annoying me about films or whatever, then I get a chance to vent my frustrations and, to have a lot of people listen to it and enjoy it and then to tell me that, they appreciate it and they agree with me. It's a great feeling, because I think a lot of people have told me over the years that before I found your channel or before I found some of the other channels on YouTube doing similar stuff, I felt like I was going crazy. Mm-hmm. I felt like I was noticing all this stuff about modern entertainment, but nobody else seemed to. And so was it just me? But then when I watch channels like this, I realized, no, it's not just me. Other people feel the same way. And so it's nice to be able to show people, no, you're not going nuts.
I think a big misconception about you would be that people think, oh, he just hates female characters or black characters or whatever. But what you're actually criticizing is taking feminism or gender swapping as a gimmick and as an excuse to write lazy scripts.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people don't get, I think.
Yeah, I mean, my critiques are by and large against bad writing, not about the idea of representation or strong female characters in media, because we've had those for years and by and large they've done really well. Like we've had previous generations of excellent characters, but they put a bit more effort into writing them back then. Now it's just a case of they use this as a shield to protect their bad writing from criticism. Because then they can just say, well, exactly as you said there. You don't like this female character that I've written, or you don't think it makes sense for there to be a black Viking fighting in Norway 1,000 years ago. Well, clearly you're a racist or you're sexist, rather than taking a moment to think, maybe this actually doesn't make sense. It's critiques of bad writing and critiques of tokenism and people just trying to use this stuff as shields to deflect criticism against them.
Would you say that when you criticize a movie, criticize the ideology, let's say, and the writing more than anything else? Because that's something I recognized about your channel. I mean, it's no critique, but just...
You mean as opposed to the camera work?
Editing, costume. And so on. Because there are some movies which are not really brilliantly written. A good example would be The Way of Water, for example. It's a pretty standard movie, but it's just so, I would say, so beautifully shot that you can't really talk about the movie without talking about how well it's done. And when you talk about movies, you talk a lot about the writing and plot holes and characters and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think because in some cases, the other stuff is a little bit subjective. Like, say, I don't know, I wanted to critique an actor for being bad at their job. Like, they don't do a good job of acting. Well, other people might look at that performance and say, no, I thought it was pretty good. But when it comes to the writing, you can prove it a bit more definitively because you can point out actual holes in the story, things that just do not make sense, or characters who make completely illogical decisions. And it's much easier to prove that and show people, no, this doesn't make sense. Whereas the other stuff, it's a little bit more open to interpretation. One person might see a great performance, another person might see a substandard performance. To some extent, the visuals are a bit more you can talk about that, but there's only so much I can comment on when it's a movie on how it looks. Most movies look pretty good today because the technology's advanced so much. And if you throw hundreds of millions of dollars at it, it probably will look okay. So it doesn't result in a very...
It will look better than this Zoom meeting, probably.
Imagine if we'd paid you $100 million. Just how clean and fresh you'd look.
Yeah, I mean, you can try.
I don't think we can.
You would be so crispy. But maybe when we're at the topic money, what's your favorite drink?
Drink? Probably Lagavulin whiskey. It's a whiskey we get here in Scotland, malt whiskey, and it's very, very nice stuff.
We've had that a few times.
Are you more the fruity whiskey guy or more the smoky whiskey guy?
I don't know if I'd describe it as fruity, but I'm not generally a huge fan of the peaty, smoky whiskies. Up to a point, it's okay, but it just becomes overpowering after a while. So I prefer generally Highland or Speyside malts for the most part, but I will make exceptions.
Do you have any remedies for hangover?
Usually eating loads of food the night before, right? So if you get home from a night out, try and get a takeaway. Germans are big on doner kebabs, so I always recommend them. They stop hangovers before they even happen.
I mean, the Scottish cuisine is also quite outrageous, I think. I think a stomach of a lamb can stop a hangover from ever happening because it makes you throw up.
We are the country that invented deep-fried battered Mars bars, so you're welcome, world.
Congratulations. The uncritical eater.
In Germany, a method against hangover is just continue drinking. Everyone will tell you this. There's this thing called Konterbier, and it's just the word, the name is anti-beer, but it's just another beer. And they say, when you're a hangover, you just drink an anti-beer against all your beer you had the day before. But I mean...
I think it's a perfectly good move, because if you never sober up, then you can never get a hangover. So
and then you're just an alcoholic.
You die young, but without a headache. So are there certain criteria or standards that a film has to meet in order for you to review it in the first place?
Not necessarily, because I've covered a wide range of movies in my time, from the huge mega blockbusters like Avatar 2 and stuff, all the way down to things like Fatal Deviation. It's just an obscure little Irish martial arts movie that was made 20 years ago, but it just piqued my interest and I wanted to talk about it, so there's no specific criteria, no. I think particularly on my second channel, that's where I get to indulge just my interests a little bit more in it. It might be older movies or films from my childhood or just things that stuck with me that I just feel like talking about. And I'm lucky in that respect that I can do it and people will be interested to hear what I have to say.
Yeah, and you have some series like Production Hell, for example, where you can breach out a little bit and not only talk about current stuff. I would say that you're probably a bit more into fantasy and action than, let's say, comedy. I mean, Hazel and I, we are big into comedy. And I mean, that's probably also not a critique, but just a conception that you might be quite harsh on, let's say, a Seth Rogen comedy.
I mean, possibly, yeah. I mean, you always, as a reviewer, you know that you've got biases, but you try to look past them as much as you can. Mm-hmm. It's never 100% perfect, but, the example I would use, it would be Rian Johnson, for example. He could conceivably make an incredible movie that's the best thing I've ever seen. I don't particularly like the guy after what he did to Star Wars, but if it was really good, I would have to give the man his dues and give the film all the praise that it deserved. Mm-hmm. It's not happened yet, but it might one day. And in terms of what I cover, things like Production Hell or The Drinker Fixes or Why Modern Movies Suck or whatever, or The Drinker Recommends. It's all a chance for me to do other things than just be constantly sitting there complaining about bad films. I also want to cover films that I really like and or discuss some of the more interesting aspects of storytelling or whatever. And these provide vehicles to do it. Production Hell is just an interesting look behind the scenes at how these movies actually get put together. And for me, it's just good to do different things so that I don't get bored and I don't feel just depressed from talking about bad movies every day. So I like being able to have a range of stuff to do.
Why don't you cover more HBO series? Because you obviously like House of the Dragon, and I wonder why you don't watch, let's say, Succession or White Lotus or Winning Time. Just there are a lot of really great and greatly written HBO series out there right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm watching Succession at the moment. It's just there's a lot of it. I'm playing catch up, and so with a lot of shows like that, sometimes it's just I don't have enough time to watch all of the episodes, because it's one thing to review a movie. It's 2 hours out of your life to watch it. It's another thing to review a TV show that's 10 seasons long, and suddenly it's going to take you months to get through it. So it's just a different proposition.
Mm-hmm.
So how would you describe your process? How many % are watching the thing and then rewatching it, then writing the thing, then recording it, editing it? How can that be imagined?
So it varies, obviously. If it's a new movie that's just come out, then obviously I'm going to go to the cinema and watch it. And then I'll have my initial thoughts of it that I might make some notes the night before, then go to write my script for the review.
So do you sit in the cinema with a notepad and a pen?
No. I usually, I can remember what happened pretty well. And like, if there's things that jumped out at me when I was watching the movie, things that really stuck in my mind, they'll usually still be there when I get home, so I can remember it. I'll make a few notes maybe and some initial thoughts. Then I'll write the script, so that'll take a day or so. Just trying to get a nice, concise summary of the film and then my thoughts, and then throw some jokes and stuff in there. And then record the audio. And then once that's done, it's just a case of getting footage that I can use to make my points, and away you go. So it's usually watch it, then a day to write the script, and then a day or two to do the editing for it.
Do you have people who help you?
No,
you edit everything yourself?
Everything myself, yeah.
Wow. And did you have ever any problems with footage that you used and then you almost got what's the term?
Flagged?
Copyright flagged. Yeah. It can happen. It does. There's certain studios that are worse than others for that sort of thing. Universal is really bad for copyright strikes. So is Paramount, I think. And you just have to be really careful. YouTube will run a few checks when you first upload your video, and you'll know then before you actually publish it whether or not it's passed the copyright test. But then, particularly with bigger videos like mine, someone from the studio might just pick up on it and take a look and say, no, I'm going to manually flag that. And so you never quite know. You just, the best way to do it is to try and keep any clips that you use to less than 10 seconds. That's the general rule of thumb.
But are you considering getting any help on maybe the editing front?
I mean, I've had people approach me over the years offering to do it. Some people have even shown me samples of like they've re-edited a couple of my videos, and it does look really good. They're better at editing than I am. I think the problem though is that once you start employing people, you have to work with them. You have to work around their schedules, and I'm just used to doing things as and when I want to, or as and when it's necessary for me. So I guess I just like that freedom of being able to work on videos when I choose, rather than having to manage a group of people or whatever.
Yeah, and I also like that your videos have some kind of edge to it, and maybe that gets lost a little bit when you have a...
Yeah, I mean, no one's going to know exactly what you would do in that situation. And so, yeah, I like the idea that it's just my stuff,
Was
my
the
ideas.
biggest point of your career so far the interview with Russell Crowe?
I mean, it was fun.
Because that was quite insane seeing him on your channel. I mean, is he a fan or?
It was a weird experience. I mean, it was arranged through his production team because, they were promoting The Pope's Exorcist. It was his latest movie. And I think he wasn't so keen on doing the big international press tour. So a lot of it was done from his home. And they said, like, we think we'd have a good opportunity to talk to you if you just want to bring him on and just ask him questions, just have a conversation. Like, I was under no obligation to talk about the movie or promote it or anything like that. And I said, sure, like if it's just going to be a regular old conversation, then I'm happy to do it. And yeah, we got it arranged. He was about half an hour late coming on, so I was just sitting there twiddling my thumbs waiting for it.
And you had to look at yourself on screen.
Yeah, because I knew I couldn't go anywhere because I knew he could pop onto the screen at any moment.
Oh my gosh.
Then he comes on and it's just he's there on screen, and they had some production people around him, and he was messing around with his headset, and he said like, "Oh, can you hear me?" And I thought he was talking to the people in the studio with him. And so I just waited. And then he looks directly at the camera and goes, I'm talking to you.
But he's so charismatic, isn't he? I mean,
he's chill. He's a chill
just
guy.
Lights up the screen somehow. I don't know how he does it.
Yeah. I mean, he's obviously a fantastic actor, had a great career. And, to talk to him, I think when my opening line was about him being in Neighbours, which is an Australian soap opera when he was starting his career.
Isn't that where Margot Robbie and the Hemsworths started?
Yeah, loads of them, Look, pretty much every Australian actor in Hollywood will have either been in Neighbours or Home and Away at some point in their career. It's guaranteed. It's just something they do. But when I asked him that, it's probably something he hadn't been asked very often by American chat show people or whatever. So he kind of lit up and he was just having a bit of a laugh talking about that for a while. So it was a nice way to start things off.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously your taste influences a lot of people. I mean, I probably would have never seen Sisu, for example, in the cinema if it was not for your critique, and you would have said that's one of the best movies this year. What is the best movie this year so far? What would you say? Is it Oppenheimer?
It probably is Oppenheimer, yeah. Oppenheimer was fantastic for the most part. Killers of the Flower Moon, it was probably an hour longer than it needed to be, but I mean, it's a Martin Scorsese movie. You expect it to be long, and in terms of the performances, the cinematography, all fantastic. So if it had just been a bit more concise, I think that would have been a good contender as well. I mean, it's probably going to scoop some awards regardless because it's him, and it's got a great cast.
I think Martin Scorsese movies have this tendency to end and then go for another hour.
Yes.
I mean, it was the same with The Wolf of Wall Street. I would probably have seen The Wolf of Wall Street 20 times if it was just an hour shorter.
Just like a TikTok would have been.
Does it, to come back to your main critique, let's say, of modern Hollywood, does it bother you when people have a misconception about your critique? When people say, "Oh, he just hates women,"
Not really, hates because black I don't Vikings.
I mean, I think those kind of critiques are usually from pretty small channels or whatever, and a lot of them just want attention. So it doesn't really bother me that much. I think if my own audience was somehow started to turn against me or started to say like, no, I think you're totally wrong there, it might be an opportunity to step back and rethink what I'm doing. But I generally, everyone's extremely positive when they talk to me. So when you get to a certain level, I suppose, on YouTube or anything, you're going to get detractors and you're going to get people who criticize you. The best thing to do is just not respond to them, really, because I've seen other YouTubers who start arguing with people on social media and it never ends. And I don't want to go down that road. I'm happy to just let them have their opinions. And ultimately, I know what my own principles are and I know why and how I critique movies. And hopefully for most people that comes across clearly in my videos.
So you used to be a writer and now you're also a writer, obviously, but you also make YouTube videos and you're a YouTuber. How has your life changed?
I mean, it allowed me to quit my job and do this full time. And, I make a pretty good living out of doing YouTube. And it's something that I enjoy doing, like breaking down stories, like giving opinions on movies and TV shows and stuff. It's fun. It's enjoyable. Yeah, it's a bit of a grind sometimes with all the editing, but ultimately, I'm not sitting in some cubicle office working for some corporation, like doing a job that means nothing. So I just I get to enjoy myself and make a living doing it.
And we get to enjoy your voice because you have a very distinct and very beautiful voice, or handsome. I don't know how you would say it. It's like a Lagavulin for the ears. Do people recognize you from just hearing you in the supermarket?
Not really, no. I've been recognized, but it's just they spot me and they know what I look like. And it's weird, like if it's once it was a delivery driver who recognized me, which was a weird experience. One time when I was passing through the airport in Scotland. One of the armed security guards recognized me. And, when a guy with a machine gun says, "Oi, drinker," start to worry what's going to happen.
And he recognized you because you said, "Go away now."
Yeah.
With your gun.
But everyone's been nice. Like, whenever I've been recognized, nobody's come up to me and given me a hard time. So that's been good.
Like Tatiana last night.
Oh my God. Do you think watching movies is more a male thing? Because in our relationship, it definitely is more Thomas's.
I think being nerdy
passion.
is probably... Well, I don't know if you can say that anymore.
I don't know if you can generalize that, because also there is these very specific, very mom-taken nerd things, like making beautiful lunchboxes for your children. I don't do that. Thomas doesn't do that. But it's also very, very nerdy. But I think movies and going to the movies, it's generally a male thing, in my bubble at least.
I don't know. I mean, I guess it depends on the movie, perhaps. Like, if it's an action movie, it's more likely to be men that are going to go see it, that sort of thing. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure women have movies that they obsess over as well. Maybe the typically nerdy side of things that you mentioned, that's perhaps more a male trait. But yeah, I mean.
Do you have movies that are almost like a mantra you watch over and over again and obsess over them?
I mean, there's definitely favorite films. Like, sometimes you're just in the mood for an old movie that you've seen before, just because it's fun and you'll enjoy it. And so there's plenty of films like that, but there's not many films I would say I'm obsessed over where I just watch it constantly. Like, I'm always
that would be so stressful.
Yeah,
no, but watch the whole movie to relax.
We have some movies we can always pop on when
that's true. It's like a comfort food.
Hayes' favorite movie is Mad Max Fury Road, and we can just always watch that. And that's also an example for a movie which is quite feministic, but not shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, that would be one example, or Everything Everywhere All at Once you really found good, or you found you liked Aliens, Terminator 2, and so on.
Yeah, and
so you're not in general against strong female characters.
And it comes in lots of different forms as well, because one of the things I reviewed on my second channel not that long ago was Queen's Gambit. The chess one with Anya Taylor-Joy. A very interesting protagonist there, with great abilities, but also real personality flaws.
But it's a Netflix series, isn't it? Like four episodes.
Yeah. And so it's not about like having, in that case, it's not a character who punches people really hard or saves the world, but like it's a person going through a struggle. And again, that's a strong, well-written female character that's interesting.
And speaking as a woman who sometimes stands in front of a camera, I would much rather play that role than just somebody who can do it all and then has to film stuff with some ping pong balls on my face in a green screen room.
Yeah,
I think it was Emily Blunt who even like lashed out at this kind of thing, where she said, if I get a script given to me and it says strong female lead on it, then I throw it in the trash can immediately, because I'm so sick of this.
No, I think she rips it apart before she throws it away, just to prove how strong she is.
And then burns it.
And I mean, she was great in Edge of Tomorrow, and that was a really strong character.
In Oppenheimer as well.
The problem might be that people, if they approach a script from an ideological point of view, and they say, I have to have a strong woman, then they're kind of trapped, because the strong character can't be flawed, and then there's no journey, there's no struggle, and then it's just flat and boring.
Yeah, and I would argue as well that the characters that they describe as strong now are not strong, because your strength is your ability to overcome flaws and weaknesses and challenges and go through a struggle. It's inner strength that sees you overcome those things. If everything is easy for you because you're perfect at everything, then there is no struggle, so you've not demonstrated any strength because it's already easy for you. Yeah, that's the problem that they don't seem to understand. But if you try to point that out, suddenly, well, you're called sexist. It's so funny.
We were always laughing about those new German, I don't know if it's a general thing, kids songs, because we have a 2-year-old daughter, and she listens to those songs which are like, I'm a cool animal, and everyone who says otherwise is just stupid and stuff like. And that's what kids learn nowadays. It's just like I'm cool. Everyone who says I'm cocky is just an asshole, and I can do anything I want. It's basically just
it's
Donald.
It's an interesting thing we teach kids now.
It's just Donald Trump, basically. Just tell everyone all the time how great you are and hope for the best.
Yeah, and it's not how life works, because if you go out there with the attitude, like say you leave school or you leave college and you go into the workplace with the attitude of I'm perfect and I don't need to learn a single thing, and if anyone's got a problem with me, well, they just have to deal with it. Well, you're going to find yourself not getting very far in life, and you're going to encounter people who are smarter than you and who are more capable than you, and that's going to absolutely knock you on your arse if you're not prepared for it. Because we used to get taught that you have to work hard to improve yourself, whether it's learning new things or becoming stronger or fitter or better able to take on adversity. But now we're told, no, you're perfect as you are and you don't need to change. And that's a horrible attitude to have in life.
It's also not interesting at all. Like if you meet somebody who has no problems, I don't think you're going to invite them to your birthday party.
And who at like say 18 years old or 20 years old has all their life figured out and has all the answers? No one. I'm 40 years old. I'm twice that age, and I'm still figuring it out as I go.
I was just going to say, look at you. You're still struggling.
yeah, clearly.
How far is your movie that's been done?
Yeah, it's good. Done the principal photography and everything, and it's just in post-production now. So obviously that takes a bit of time. All the effects that have to be added and all that stuff. So,
do you think there's a shift right now in the movie industry? Because on the one hand, there are a lot of movies that are independently made, like the Bert Kreischer movie, for example, and on the other, I think it's the first time for maybe 10 or even 20 years that the 3 most successful movies worldwide are not superhero movies.
Thank
Barbies, Super Mario Bros. And Oppenheimer. And I would almost say nowadays it's a success strategy when your movie is actually good. And it hasn't been that for a long time. I mean,
it's like a hack.
I mean,
Imagine this crazy idea. We're going to make good films again.
Yeah, like Top Gun Maverick or even Everything Everywhere All at Once. Even Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was a great movie and it was quite successful. Or Across the Spider-Verse. Would you say people are annoyed or they see more through the bullshit than they used to?
I think a bit of both, really. And I think, contrary to what some people might tell you, superhero fatigue is definitely a thing now. Mm-hmm. We have had, really, if you count all those X-Men movies that started in the early 2000s, we've had over 20 years of this, of fairly non-stop superhero movies. And there's only so much the general audience can take before they just feel burned out with it. And I think we're reaching that point now. And so the rare movie that does do well in the superhero genre usually does because it has to be really good. The days when you could just release any old garbage but slap the Marvel name on it and have it make $1 billion, they are over now, and I don't think they're coming back. So yeah, it forces them to be better, and it also opens up opportunities for other films.
Where do you... Or do you even want to talk about it? Where do you actually stand politically? Like, because people would say, he's against wokeness. He might be also against Greta Thunberg or whatever. Joe Biden.
My political stance is that I hate politics and I try to stay away from it as much as possible. So.
Because that's also what I liked about your channel. It's not those typical YouTube channels where you watch it and you think, this guy has some crazy cool ideas, and then it gets more right-wing with every video, and all of a sudden you're watching.
No, it's my golden rule, never going to talk about politics or religion on my channel or anywhere else, because it's just, it's not something I want to get into. Like my channel is meant to be apolitical, and it focuses on media and entertainment. So that's what it's always been about, and that's what it always will be.
And hard alcohol.
Yeah.
It's so funny that Hazel is going to voice one of the main characters of the next Disney movie, and you're talking to each other because
yeah, but you will never see it
critique.
you will never see it in the version that I was involved in unless you start
you have
a third channel with German dubbed movies.
Right. Okay.
Der Kritiker Trinker with like 2 dots everywhere.
Yeah.
Der kritische Trinker.
Well, thank you very much for talking to us. I think you made a little boy very happy.
Glad I could help.
I'm glad that we had a normal conversation without like seeing stills of movies popping up all the time. It's too stressful for me. So thanks a lot for taking the time and talking to 2 Germans.
Yes.
My pleasure.
Anyway, go away now.
Hey, you said the thing.
Do you want to say it?
Say it in German. Wie auch immer, gehen Sie weg.
Wie auch immer, gehen Sie weg.
Yes.
Wow, it's so
really
powerful.
good.
I'm so looking forward to your 3rd channel.
Thank you very much. It was really nice.
Thank you.
Der war mega süß.
Ja, das war nett.
Kleiner Smirken, klein.
Ich bin ein paar Mal ein bisschen abgekackt.
Ach, schön. Nichts, was die Schere nicht lösen könnte.